Hi, and welcome to this Fornav coffee break. My name is René Brummel. I'm a product specialist at Fornav, and I will be your presenter today. As this coffee break is live, you can ask your questions via the GoToWebinar question window. We will answer them at the end of the coffee break. Today, we're going to manage extension translations. Translating your Business Central extensions is tricky. When you enable the translation feature, VS Code will generate an XLF file that you will need to translate manually. With Fornav, you can convert that XLF file to an Excel file, add your translations, and create your language XLF files. To demonstrate how to manage extension translations, we will use an AppSource extension as an example. However, with Fornav, you can translate any type of extension, big or small. To demonstrate managing extension translations, I'm going to use these steps. Prerequisites, what do I need to get going? In step 2, I will create the translation Excel file. In step 3, I will translate my Excel file and import it. In step 4, I will publish my extension and test the translation. Let's start with the first step. Today, I will be managing extension translations in the Business Central on-premise Docker installation with the Business Central 2020 Wave 2 release. Of course, everything I do today is also available on the Business Central cloud environment. I have the Fornav Designer installed on my PC. The Fornav Designer can be downloaded from the Fornav website. I also have VS Code with the AL language and PowerShell extensions installed. The first thing we need to do to translate our extension with Fornav is to create the Excel translation file. To create the translation file, we can use the Fornav PowerShell module. The first thing we need to do is load that module, then we call the invoke export translation function. So let's go and have a look in VS Code and have a look at my extension. You will notice at this moment I have a bunch of objects in my extension, but I have nothing in my translations file. So I will need to translate my translation XLF file first. To do that, obviously, all I need to do is publish my extension. So whilst that is running, it will also open my red layout selection in Business Central. You will notice my Business Central has been set up to open in Danish. Some of these functions are in Danish, but the extension tables, the report ID, and the tooltips, everything is not translated just yet. So that's what we're going to do right now. If I go back to VS Code, you will notice my XLF file has been created. And the next step for me to do is to create an Excel file based on this XLF file. To do that, I've created a simple export PowerShell script. In this PowerShell script, the first thing it does is it imports the Fornav PowerShell module. And the second step is it invokes the export translation from XLF to Excel. And then it says from XLF, which points to the XLF file in my extension. And then we say to Excel, which points to an Excel file in my translations folder. If I run this, great thing with VS Code with the PowerShell extension is that you can run PowerShell straight from VS Code. If I run this, you will notice my translation XLS file appears. And if I go to my folder, this is the translation folder of my extension, I now have a translations XLS file. If I open this, of course it opens in my other screen. If I open this, you will notice I have a simple file with the key, which are the table captions, and the English translation already added, which is just a one-on-one copy of the table keys. Once we have our Excel file, we can translate it or send it to someone who can do the translation for us. Once it's translated, we can import the translation again. So obviously, I'm not going to translate the entire extension right now during this coffee break. I have done this before, so all I need to do is paste my translations. Some people have very kindly translated this extension to Danish and German. So now I have my translations, for instance, report ID. I have the translations in Dutch, in Danish, and in German. Once that's done, I usually check if everything matches. That seems okay. Once that's done, I can save my translation file, close it, and go back to VS Code. And in VS Code, I have another PowerShell script. This one's called import.ps1. And this PowerShell script also imports the 4nav commandlet. And then it says invoke import translation from Excel to XLF. And what it does there, I need to add a from XLF, which is again just the general XLF file we have here, from Excel, which points to the Excel file that I've just edited, and to XLF points to the translations folder in my VS Code project. Select all of this and run it again. And once I run that, you will notice I now have 4 more translation files. I have the Dutch, English, German, and Danish files. And if I open these, you will notice these are just normal valid XLF files with the translations inserted. Finally, we want to publish and test. Of course, we want to know if all of this works. So once again, go to VS Code and hit publish to my own server. And once I publish this, you will notice my Business Central is still set to Danish. So now I have a report ID, report name in German. In Danish, my Danish isn't good enough to pronounce all of this, but you get the idea. Everything has now been translated properly. So, of course, we'll check some other translation as well. Let's go try German. And when I'm in German, I have Berichts ID instead of report ID, and all of my tooltips have been translated as well. There we have the export, so all of that has now been translated. Let's recap what we just did. The first thing we did was to create an Excel translation file. We did this by invoking the export translation function in the 4nav PowerShell module. We then translated the Excel file and used that to create our language XLF files. Finally, we published and tested. Thank you very much for listening to me so far. If you have any questions, you can type them in the GoToMeeting question window, and I will see if I can read them. If you export it one more time, will it export all of the languages? No, it won't. So you'll need to re-export them yourself. And what I usually do in my build scripts is I have a master Excel file with all the translations, and whenever I do any changes, I create a new Excel file with the basis, and I merge that into my Excel file with the current translations. So there's a little bit of manual work involved there. I hope that answers your questions. Can't see any other questions coming in. If you do have any more questions, just type them in. I can see Luke typing, but I can't see the entire question. Luke, if you Luke says the tool lets you easily manage the translation files, but it doesn't. Does it let you help you with the translation itself? No, it doesn't. So you will need to manually translate. But of course, there are a lot of tools to translate your Excel files. So with Excel, you can create some macros or scripts or whatever to translate these Excel files with whatever translation tool you want.
So actually, it's built into Excel these days. So there's a tool translation thing. So you can just mark the columns you want to have translated to given language, and it will do a Microsoft translation. But of course, if you want to use Google instead, you have to copy it out into a text file. But it's fairly easy to use the Excel built-in stuff.
Thanks, Michael. Then Christoph asks, can you use it as a standalone product? Yes, but you still need to install the 4NAV Designer and Converter with it. If you do that, you get the PowerShell DLL, and you can move that to wherever you want. So you can take the PowerShell DLL and add it to your build scripts if you want to.
Yeah, it's 100% free to use.
Right, I can't see any more questions coming in, so I will wrap up. If you want to know more about 4NAV, please visit 4nav.com, and if you want to play with this Excel translation tool, you can download the 4NAV Designer and Converter from 4nav.com/download. If you want to use 4NAV in Microsoft BC Cloud, then you can install it from the app source. And if you want to rewatch this video, we will upload it to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/4navreports. So that's where it will end up in a little bit of time. If you have any questions after this webinar is over, if you're watching this from YouTube, please send them to support@4nav.com. If you have any ideas, 4NAV Coffee Breaks will continue with new topics. For a list of upcoming and recorded coffee breaks, please visit 4nav.com/coffeebreak. And if you have any tips or suggestions for future 4NAV coffee breaks, please send them to info@4nav.com. And if you do a coffee break about your suggestion, then we will send you a €50 or US$ gift certificate as a thank you. With that, I can't see any more questions coming in. So thank you very much for listening today. Thank you, Michael, for answering some questions, and we will see you in a future coffee break. Thank you very much, and goodbye.